Hello, we are live tonight at Cat. Stop doing that. I know you're doing it on purpose. Wait, now I lost my train of thought. Oh my god. Well, guess who just messaged me?
Who?
Guess.
Was it Immutable Destiny?
No, it was somebody else.
Peter.
Fuck it, I'll just say it. Wild Heart.
Oh.
What's on? But look, here it is. Midnight. Immutable
Midnight.
Destiny is
Fucking
here.
shit. Damn.
I
Not that
fuck you.
pathetic. Fucking crap.
Hey, oh,
Hey,
no,
what did I?
you don't know. You're more pathetic. But moving on.
Well, all right. Damn.
What's
I didn't
that?
know. Shoot.
Yes.
Alright,
So,
trying to
so
get
the
feisty.
topic, so the topic of well, so the topic of the stream is Dungeons and Dragons. Can it steal your soul? Short answer, no.
I didn't know I could steal somebody's non-existent soul, but okay.
Are you
Gingers and
Dungeons and
albinos don't
Dragons?
have souls.
Well, are you Dungeons and Dragons?
I might be a dragon. Not sure about the dungeon part.
Yeah, no, you're not a dragon. You're a mouse.
Oh, okay. And I guess you're the shit from a mouse.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
the shit from a mouse can cause horrible destruction. I mean,
So yeah, so there you go.
Hey. I don't disagree.
God damn, you fucking asshole. So, anyways, Immutable, you're wrong. Anyways, good night. Moving on. Have a nice day.
Alright, yeah. That settles it.
I mean, here's the thing. I'm kind of confused because I'm not entirely certain what your position is. But
My position?
yeah, on the whole Dungeons and Dragons, you can lose yourself in it. If I'm
Oh, you're talking about role playing and stuff like that?
Yes.
yeah,
Role playing.
My thing
acting,
is, I think-
And, go ahead.
I think role playing can be behaviorally rewarding in a way that sometimes people can lose track of the fact that it's a game, and as a result, right, that can influence their psyche.
okay, so you're taking essentially roughly the same position Jack Chick takes on it. Just
I don't
they
know what
lose
that
themselves.
position is.
Jack Thompson, too.
You lose your position is they can lose themselves and it affects their psyche. Jack Chick is you can lose yourself and that affects your psyche and what's the word, your salvation. But
Okay.
it's a similar position.
Yeah, it's a similar
from what I'm
type of thing.
understanding.
Yeah.
How?
How? I mean, have you not played a video game and kind of lost track of, and kind of like not felt emerging? Well,
I've never
like
lost
blurring
track of
between-
myself.
I've
been playing.
I mean,
I've been playing tabletop role-playing games for well over a decade, almost 2 decades at this point. I've never lost myself. I've been playing, role-playing computer games like old CRPGs for years, never lost myself. It's never negatively affected my psyche. I
don't think
I
most
just want to
people
know
do.
how.
I mean, I don't think most people do. I mean, I think it's still nonetheless a concern, right? Because there are instances where people have done that, right? Where that boundary.
I need to
Can you
I need to,
show me one?
I need to address something. Wild Heart, I don't give a fuck if you burn yourself, okay? You're not getting into stream. Go ahead.
I'm going off anecdote.
Well,
Like if people describing, this kind of lapse in cognition or this lapse in perception, like when, like of them being overly involved in some type of game or some type of event, and they feel a type of dissonance between, the type of role they're involved in and their actual personality.
okay, do you have any sort of...
I said it's anecdotes. I mean, I'm not going to like pull something up immediately.
Well, I'm not asking you to
Well,
pull it
hang
up
on, hang on, hang on, hang on.
immediately. It just
Hang on, hang on. You always bring up Heath Ledger. Okay, so start there.
Right. I mean, Keith Ledger, among his other issues, the role he played with the Joker is
Heath,
one of the things. Heath
not
Ledger.
Keith. Heath.
Fine. Heath Ledger, I mean, among many other things like that were wrong with his mental health, part of like what kind of in some sense accelerated, the pre-existing issue and his downfall was playing the Joker.
I mean, if you're making that argument of that role, you're making an argument for every other role he's been in, right?
Well,
because
no,
he's
I mean,
go
I
ahead,
think
Kat.
Well, no. If I can,
Go ahead.
Immutable can respond.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't think that follows because I don't think all roles have the same type of psychological, like, impact on a person, like in regards to trying to emulate that character properly, or especially for the sake of a performance.
I mean, isn't he contradicting himself a bit?
No, I'm just saying, how am I
No.
contradicting myself in pointing out that there's
You're
demarcations?
Well, hang on. You're contradicting yourself. You're contradicting yourself in by saying that if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons or role playing, you can lose yourself in the character. Well, okay, which character can you lose yourself? Are there degrees? Like this is.
I'm
this
the
is what
moderator
bothers me.
now.
Yeah, this is what bothers me about your position. Like, you can lose yourself. Which character? Can you lose yourself by?
I don't know if
by
it's necessarily. Again, I'm not sure it's necessarily dependent on character as much as it is the type of.
But you literally said that the Joker role was more taxing for him than any other role. So
right.
Kat,
You asked me to bring up Keith Ledger, which is the place in which he was playing a character of the Joker. Right. It can occur via actors playing, caricatures.
Why didn't it occur? Didn't it occur to Brad Pitt?
I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not trying to say like that it's an end all, that it's an if then type of thing. I mean, there's a lot of variables that contribute to it.
Well,
right, and I'm not even saying it's. I've even said from the get-go, I'm not even trying to say it's a majority type of thing. I'm saying, look, there's anecdotes of people experiencing this type of phenomenon occurring, right? And I'm saying, okay, even if those things aren't a majority, the fact that they're occurring in the first place, I mean, that's something that can't be ignored.
Do you think that's an issue of the role-playing game, or do you think that's an issue of underlying mental health issues?
That's hard to say because sometimes people that I would call relatively normal, right, engage in very long amounts of time playing games, and over time I've had people, gradually kind of become more dissonant with the world, had very strong attitude changes, have very
but that's not the game's.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think you would require some sort of evidence that's related to the game, and not.
And I think it's my point is I think it's related to sure.
I think you would require some sort of evidence it's directly related to the game and not an underlying mental issue or a change they're already going through naturally, and the game just happens to be a thing. Yeah,
that seems honestly like a very cheap way of trying to get around it. I mean, I think
no. I think you can't just use anecdotes as evidence that. This is the same thing Jack Chick said, of chick tracts, that, Dungeons and Dragons will make you, it can potentially make you lose your mind and, become the Satan or whatever. That doesn't really track it. Because how many people play Dungeons and Dragons? Let's look at the people who, are involved with Wizards of the Coast shit.
Sure.
And that don't have any of those issues. That I don't think it's an issue with role playing. I think it's a deeper issue than the role playing game. I don't think the role playing is anything that
So
does
you
it, and I
think
think
so
you would
you think
need.
every person that has developed some kind of mental strife, some kind of freak transformation is the result, like, is strictly because of the fact, like, that there's some pre-existing, but yet prior to the event, undiagnosed medical issue.
Okay.
Well, hold on. Let me
go
just cut
ahead.
in here.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said a freak change.
Well, I mean, in most cases,
That's
even in anecdotes,
disingenuous.
which no,
I
I'm
mean,
saying
hold on. You're talking entirely about anecdotes.
yeah.
So you don't have any evidence. So you saying it's a freak change
Are we going to
is entirely
discount?
anecdotal.
Are we going to discount anecdotes as points of data?
No, but I'm asking for you, because what you were saying was what I'm saying is that what I'm saying is that
what I'm expressing. Let me re-express it.
you were saying
Okay,
my
one at a
point is a
time.
cheap way to get out of it. So I'm trying to say you using anecdotes to buffer your point is equally as cheap, if not more so, than what I'm saying. I'm just asking,
Yeah, I do
how
have
do you know that it's not underlying mental issues and it's the game's fault?
How do I know it's not underlying medical issues? Because
mental.
there's a underlying mental issues with the person. Because I think part of playing games, like, there's a very strong type of like psychology that's associated with when people play games and when people are rewarded, and the whole kind of psychology behind that, behind that kind of world, right? And that's something that can manipulate people, right? Even people that are perfectly normal.
Immutable, literally everything
What kind of
manipulates you.
changes? What kind of changes are you actually like? I'm
People
legitimately
becoming
confused.
people becoming antisocial, people becoming dependent or heavily starting to use drugs and alcohol, substance abuse,
You think
right? To name a
that
few.
Dungeons and Dragons is related to substance abuse?
I'm saying that people who are obsessively involved in certain circles of role playing, right? One of the things it can cause, right, is a change in the person's personality and potentially substance abuse.
So obsessively, hold on. Obsessive involvement is in fact. Hold on, Midnight. Shut up real quick. Obsessive involvement would in fact be an underlying mental issue, right? Having an obsessive involvement with something, correct?
I don't know. I mean, I know people that have spent quite a bit of time and who spend a lot of time because they're enjoying something.
Well, you said obsessive. Obsessive, do you mean that clinically or do you mean that colloquially?
Colloquially.
All right, what do you mean by obsessive colloquially then?
Spending hours at a time.
Well, yeah, that's how you play a role-playing game.
Right, spending long spurts of time without taking breaks, right?
Well,
something that would cause mental stress.
What you were saying was specifically people who play it obsessively. So now, have you ever played Dungeons and Dragons? Because a session can go anywhere between 2 and 8 hours.
Yeah,
sometimes
a long
even
time
more.
ago I played it.
Yeah, so that would basically put everyone who plays a tabletop game of any sort, even Monopoly, as obsessively playing it. Correct?
Sure.
All right, so that means everyone then. So your distinction of obsessively using is no longer a distinction.
Okay, fine, I'll give it to you.
Well, then what's the point, I guess?
Because my point is I think there's a relationship, and perhaps it doesn't exist, right, between certain types of role play and certain changes in a person's personality and an influence it has on a person's psyche. Those types of things I've heard mostly from anecdotes, right? That's not a strong form of evidence. So,
why do you think that? Is it just anecdotes?
Mostly anecdotes. I mean, I haven't really dived into the literature on this.
Well,
because it's not really
mostly.
something. Mostly
the
anecdotes,
not
like
anecdotes?
99.99%.
Well, what's the
Like I
point?
looked into the
0.01%.
I don't recall. Like it's been forever since I've had to look into this topic into any detail.
Immutable, I do have a quick question for you. Yes, I will grant you those those anecdotes of people potentially losing themselves or whatever. Even granting those, why is it that you personally, that you personally, don't want to try, role playing, Pathfinder or whatever, or how even acting?
I don't think I'm personally against role playing. I mean, I think role playing has to be conducted within a relatively controlled environment.
Okay. Wow. I don't even. Go ahead, Kat.
Question.
Yeah.
What controls would you put in an environment for role playing so that certain things wouldn't happen?
I mean, it depends on the format, right? If we're talking digital, you program certain parameters that certain things cannot occur, right? If it's something where people are interacting, like in the case of, like romantic or whatever, right? It's an agreed upon type of thing before the role playing occurs, right? Boundaries are set in place, right, to essentially establish the lines of acceptable behavior.
Long story short, long story short, if you're playing, hang on. Long story short, if you're playing a video game, and you play for 8 hours, the game will tell you to fuck off and turn the game off, right?
Yeah,
No.
it will. I mean, I think a lot of companies have gotten better with that. In terms of telling people, like, hey, you need to like stop playing the game. It's best if, you take a break, walk a little bit, or whatever, right?
I'm a kind of okay with Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop games in particular, right? That's a social event. You are
Right.
aware of that, correct? That's
Yeah.
You're usually there with your friends, or you're at
Right, sure.
a fucking event, where you're there with a bunch of people. It's not like you're just sitting there lost in your own fucking anything.
No,
Like,
I get that.
all right. I mean, how many? I mean, okay, I've played tabletop games a long time. Eventually, your character dies, or you wind up doing a new campaign, and you make a new character. You don't have really that much time to get lost indefinitely in one character.
Hey, Mutable, read this.
You realize you could be an adult and take a break. Yeah, and most people do. Right? How many times do I have to say, right, that I've granted the fact that it's a minority of people?
I mean, I don't think it's an issue with the game, though. I think that's an issue with someone already having an issue. I
suppose,
see
right?
how it
I'm willing to accept that. I mean, to me, it seems like an uncanny coincidence. That's all, right? I'm not denying that it could be pre-existing, like medical.
How is it an uncanny coincidence?
That every time, a person that every time a person with, pre-existing, mental issues, right, is playing, a role-playing game, right, those issues intensify and worsen as the result of doing it. I mean,
I think someone who has issues with addiction, if they then start using heroin, those issues will worsen and intensify. Like, if someone has an issue with being detached from reality and does something else that, detaches them from reality, it's not the game's fault. It's the fact that the person has an issue from not being attached to reality in the first place.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like I said, I'm willing to accept that explanation. To me, it's just, I don't find it perfectly satisfying.
What
do you
think is satisfying? What's not satisfying about it?
Well, that response sounds
I
like
I can't
you know what? Whatever. Go ahead.
I can't tell you interpersonally why it's not satisfying. I just know that to me it's not a satisfying explanation.
Well,
That doesn't mean I'm not willing to accept it.
so what is a satisfying?
It seems more rational to say that there's some kind of contribution on both parts, right? That perhaps it's not entirely the fault of
Well,
role playing, and it's not
quick.
entirely the fault, of a person that has pre-existing mental issues playing the game.
Well, I have a quick question. What the what the fuck did people do before role playing games were invented or video games in general? Didn't people lose their minds?
I mean,
Like
they
what
did. They
caused?
did all sorts of crap.
Well, right. Okay. So why? So do you understand why it just seems odd that you're making this argument? Like like it has
I mean,
like it
it's
has
a
to
more
be.
recent it's a more recent phenomenon that's shown up in terms of like what we consider to be modern games, right?
Right, but the point is people have been losing their minds for centuries. You can't blame. I'm phrasing this argument horribly, but you get the point. You can't blame like Dungeons and Dragons for causing it.
Right.
For
I'm
causing it.
not. Let me be clear. I'm not saying that Dungeons and Dragons is going to create is the cause for people like going out and murdering people or developing like full blown mental issues.
You literally are, but
No,
go on.
I'm not.
I
Right.
don't think he's saying that
I'm
either.
What I'm trying to say is that there seems to be some type of correlation, and it may not exist, right? Between people, between some type of worsening mental condition and people, and the types of
Hey,
activities that occur within specific role playing games.
I have an anecdote for you.
Sure.
The screen.
I find role playing games and group games help my mental health in a positive way. And for most people they do.
I mean,
I'm not denying it.
I
I
don't
had a
know, man.
point.
It just it always seems like your position is confusing. Maybe I'm not getting it, but
Do you see where from my perspective it comes off as a little
Okay.
unusual that saying, for instance, that people who have pre-existing mental issues, right, and play video games unanimously, right, always have the same type of thing occurring, and that is the worsening of those pre-existing symptoms.
Did you hear what I said about how people with addiction issues, when they use heroin, their symptoms get worse?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not weird that people with addiction issues, when they use something addictive, their issues worsen and intensify, much in the same way of people who have issues with detachment from reality. When they do things that detach them from reality, those issues intensify and worsen, right? You do realize how that tracks pretty well, correct?
Right, sure. I mean,
So then your point doesn't make sense.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's
it
just
doesn't seem to be the case, right? That all
Well,
games
okay.
are addictive, right? That would be
It's not.
true. Go ahead.
I'm not saying it's addictive. I'm saying that those are two separate things. Heroin's addictive. Role-playing games do detach you from reality. But for most people who have, the mental faculties appropriate, don't have an issue with having like, a permanent or long-standing detachment from reality. Whereas people who already have an issue with detachment from reality, when they do these things, they would obviously have the issue intensified.
Yeah,
I'm
sure,
not
that
saying
makes
it's
sense.
addictive.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, and also there's a correlation between trans people and, Wizards of the Coast. A lot of queer people play Dungeons and Dragons. That doesn't mean Dungeons and Dragons makes people queer.
yeah, that's
No,
actually a
I
good
get that.
analogy.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. You were saying that there's a correlation between, people losing attachment to reality in Dungeons and Dragons. Well, that's the same thing as saying if like, hey, there's a correlation between people being trans and playing Dungeons and Dragons or Magic the Gathering. I mean, that it doesn't really track. I mean, it's not really.
Sure, I acknowledge the point.
Well, yeah, I just don't think your point really has any.
Right, and I've said I'm willing for the point to be wrong. Right,
I mean,
if it's being wrong, that's fine.
Well, I mean, we're telling you why it's wrong or at least misinformed.
Right, and I'm accepting your rationale for it.
Until 2 weeks from now, when we have the same argument again, and you're gonna go back to it.
We had this conversation 2 weeks ago. I don't know why we're having it again.
Well, because I was bored.
Yeah,
you decided to air it to YouTube.
Probably.
God fucking.
What was that?
Nothing.
I don't know. That is probably what it is. I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting conversation to have, so I was on board.
I think. I guess my thing would be asking the question: what types of given that, right? What types of things do you consider to lead to or to trigger detachment within people?
Well,
that's $1 million. That's a complicated question, obviously.
That depends. I mean, it could depend on the person. I mean, there's schizophrenia, there's dissociation, there's dissociative identity disorder. Jesus fucking Christ, PTSD can do that. CPTSD. A lot of things can cause people to, dissociate from reality. And if it's a long-standing issue where delusions, if delusions are involved, then yes, that sort of thing can really, continue it, especially considering, a lot of times when you're playing D&D, you're fucking smoking pot or drinking, which none of those things are good for delusions or schizophrenia or something like that.
Would you say that disassociation or detachment is always occurs within people that have some type of pre-existing mental issue, or that it happens every so now and then with normal people?
Yeah, dissociation happens with normal people, but it's not a long-standing issue. It's not something like dissociation. If you don't have an issue with dissociation, it's not going to last for a particularly long time. But if you have an issue like the ones I, explained plus others, you already have a predisposition for dissociation and you dissociate relatively regularly. Is I guess what I would say to that.
Okay.
Because anyone can dissociate from, something traumatic or even something not traumatic, but that's generally rare unless you have an underlying condition that
it's also interesting. It's also interesting how Dungeons and Dragons or like role playing games has helped both children with autism and adults with adults with autism, by teaching them how to be in a how to be in a social setting, right? Playing D&D and having a team, it actually helps build confidence. It actually helps also helps strengthen bonds between players. You know what I mean? There's a lot of positive things to playing D&D. For video games, it's always the hand-eye coordination. Also playing video games allows you to to get rid of pent-up aggressions. I've had so much fun playing playing Saints Row 4 and just beating the shit out of people with my fists or using the weapons.
Well, that's a you issue.
Well, no, I mean, I think that's a natural type of. I don't know. I don't know too many people who just live day to day, and don't have moments where they, where they desire to do things that are probably not at the time advisable.
Well, right. Right. Video games and role playing and just acting in general offers people outlets, right?
Yeah, I
Outlets
agree.
to express themselves, and yet you're saying, oh, you could lose yourself. Okay, that's a possibility, sure,
What
but
I'm
the
saying is
benefits
much
far
like
outweigh.
what I'm saying is as much as there are positive benefits that can occur from it, right? It also seems that in select cases there are also potential negative consequences that can occur, right? And
Right, but I would argue it's more on the person than the activity, as we've been trying to say, because even before role playing, well, acting, acting has been around for centuries. So you know what I mean. If you know what I mean. If you want to say acting is a way to lose yourself too, then my God, my God, every actor and actresses from the time of the Greeks up till now probably lost themselves eventually. You know what I mean? Granted, we don't know, but
no,
it's just
I mean it's there's other things that have happened with people. I mean, far more interesting things where a person who like plays the role of, let's say, a knight, or say like some person that's very intelligent, right? The result of playing that role might impact.
hey guys, I don't mean to laugh at you. Counterpoint to cat. Steve McRae plays D&D. It must be bad. Sorry, but I didn't mean to interrupt. Oh
No, I
god
mean, I think like with role playing there are interesting things that happen, which is
damn.
sometimes people when they engage in role playing, right? Sometimes if they've played with a character for a very long, stretch of time, sometimes some aspects of that character's personality uh, sometimes integrates with the person's original
And
personality.
that's a bad thing. If he, that's a bad
Well,
thing.
No,
If he
I'm
makes
not trying to say it's a bad thing. I'm saying it's sometimes it can be good. Usually it's interesting. Usually it's good, actually.
Right, go
I
ahead,
mean,
Cat. You were gonna say something.
I'm just. Is that just anecdotal then? That personality integrates with them?
I mean, yeah, it's anecdotal. I mean, I'm not sure like how many people have
Well,
come out and have said that. I mean, that'd be kind of an awkward statement for somebody to just come out saying out of the blue.
well, I mean, that's kind of the thing. It's so. Is it you? Like is it you seeing someone else have their character, incorporate with them, or are you hearing secondhand stories from someone saying that?
Usually it's secondhand.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Right, I'm
Go
not
ahead.
trying to say it's like Harvard level research.
I don't
I'm saying
even
it's
think
anecdote.
that's I don't think that's Alabama technical school level research, man.
And again, I don't have enough of an interest in this really to pursue the technical literature on this to see if there are actual
So,
cases where that's been documented.
so
Right?
Then
It's
why
not a
hold the
conversation
position?
which I'm because it's a conversation that got brought up 2 weeks ago in conversation, and it happened, and then it resolved.
not
Well, I
really.
mean, I'm
Well,
just
it did resolve until 30 minutes ago.
you you do seem to hold the position though, kind of, even though you keep on saying I'm willing to grant this, and then saying, well, it seems to be the
I'm
Yeah,
still
opposite.
contemplating what's been said.
but you
Right?
literally
Change
just
isn't an
said you have
overnight
no
process.
interest in it. Cat, do you not see? I give up.
I'm
Is it just me?
I'm just trying to get to the bottom of it. Like, I don't know if this is a position you hold or if it's something you find interesting.
It's something I find interesting. I mean, I'm not fully committed to the position.
But you're partially committed to the position.
Sure,
So
I
it's a
have
position you
beliefs.
hold.
What it holds up to nuke school?
Sure, I had
Oh, you
beliefs
killed
prior
me.
to this conversation about it, right? And I
Oh
still
my
do have
god.
beliefs. I'm not,
Well,
again, I'm not
I mean,
overly committed to the belief.
Well, okay, you say you're
It just
not
seems
overly
weird.
committed.
I'm confused what the purpose of re-asking the same question 20 times is.
Well,
I mean,
I'm
you
really
asking me the question over and over and over again isn't going to elicit a different response.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get a full bearing on what you're saying, because one minute you'll say, "Oh yeah, I grant this," and then the next minute you say,
Right,
"Oh
because I'm
yeah,
trying to
well
be
this seems to be the truth of the issue." So I'm just kind of confused is all it is. Like, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm not trying to get you in a gotcha. I'm legitimately
mean-
just trying to figure out what it is you actually hold to.
I'm not sure I would say I hold to it. Right? I mean, again, this is a conversation that got brought up 2 weeks ago. I expressed my thoughts at the time. I'm listening to you at the time, right? It's not something I'm as committed to as the belief in like a god doesn't exist. Right? It's not something I have a strong inclination to one way or the other.
Well, a god not existing, I mean, it's really hard to prove something doesn't exist. I
Sure,
mean,
what I mean, let me clarify that then. What I mean by that is in regards to the whole atheism agnosticism thing, right? I've invested more time in terms of looking into philosophy and learning philosophical arguments and what have you, right? In order to justify a pre-existing position that I've had, right? I've actively spent time to take that process. In this particular instance, it's not something I care overly much about to really do that with, right? Not to say the conversation isn't interesting, but my belief on the topic isn't very strong one way or the other, which is why I'm saying I'm willing to, to grant the point.
Okay, Kat, is it just me? Is it just me, or is his belief strong on it? But I don't know.
I don't know
Maybe
if my belief has been strong on it, right? It's just I don't I don't know how else to express by saying it's a conversation that happened several weeks ago, right? It passed.
right. We
And all
established
things
that. We've established that.
well,
But
I wasn't involved in whatever conversation happened a couple weeks ago.
right. I can tell you from DM history, this is a conversation that occurred about 2 to 3 weeks ago.
yeah,
Well,
we get that.
I know I wasn't involved in that. That's why I'm trying to, like, you might have some frustration with Midnight here. I'm just literally trying to parse out what the thing is. I mean, I
think in the
wasn't there for
conversation it's
any
been
of that shit.
expressed. And I think it's in the conversation it's been expressed, which is I thought there was some correlation between deterioration in mental health in video games. And through the course of argumentation, right, you guys are indicating that that's not the case, that it seems to depend more heavily upon the person's pre-existing mental health, which I'm willing to accept.
Correlation is completely different than causation. That's why I brought
agree.
up that that's why I brought up there's a correlation between trans people and Wizards of the Coast, Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering. A correlation doesn't mean anything. There's a correlation between Nick Cage movies coming out and people dying by drownings.
I get that.
A correlation doesn't mean shit. If you have actual causation, that's relevant. A correlation is...
I don't disagree.
Well, I mean, basing an idea on a correlation without any causation is...
I'm not sure what it would mean to say the two are causally connected. In this case, I mean, there's so many other variables. It's hard
connection.
I don't think I've committed myself to say that to make that strong of a claim. But if I have,
I really should have chosen a better title. I blame Kat for the title because people are getting confused.
I don't even know what the title is.
Dungeons and Dragons, can it steal your soul? I went with your suggestion.
Okay, I made a fucking joke.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm the retard who used it.
I don't know. It just seems like
if I'm trying to make a claim of causation, it's obviously not correct, right? And if that's the case, I retract the statement.
It seems like you're implying a causation because What you're saying is, people play these games and then, they have, issues coming from that. That seems to be a claim of causation.
No, I've stated there's correlation between. There appears to be correlation between the two. I don't think even in the conversation that me and Midnight had that I made the claim that there's causation.
Well,
That
you
there's some
did
kind of
say
like causal relation between the two.
you said that things happen when people play too much or do too much of role-playing games, and then you said it's the minority. That does in fact imply that you're saying there's some causational relation by saying when people do these things happen, even though it's not the majority and it's obviously the minority. That is implying some sort of causal relation, just based on how I'm reading it.
Okay, in that case, I just disagree. Right? Because I don't see that as a causal claim. If you do, then...
I mean, all right, so when people do heroin, there's no causal relation to them being addicts.
I mean, the causal relation lies within the person's prior mental history. Right?
Oh my!
I would
thank
agree.
you. You proved my point. I win.
Yeah, What about like the umpteenth time that I've said I'm willing to accept your point? It doesn't click
because
I've said that 20 times.
Because
Kat, what more do you want me to say?
Well, you keep on then saying, well, it seems to
Kat,
me that
I've
this
tried
happens.
to change the topic.
Okay, immutable. Calm down.
Kat, I've tried to change the topic 3 different times now, and it's brought back to the same point.
To what topic? I don't think we've changed topics. I mean, what topic were you attempting to change it to? Because I'm willing to change the topic, and I'm sorry if I didn't pick that up, but I don't think you attempted to change the topic. I think we were still continuing talking within the same topic.
Maybe I did. I don't know.
Well, then don't make that claim, you jackass.
Choose a different topic, right? I mean, it seems that this has been exhausted.
If you want to choose a different topic, then choose a different. Don't get mad at me saying you tried to change the topic.
I'm not getting mad at you.
You just said you tried to change the topic, and then I called you out on that, and you said maybe I didn't. I don't know what you want out of me.
I'm not getting mad at you. I just don't understand why the same point is being brought up when I've conceded it.
Because then you will say, well, it seems to me that, this is the thing. And then I bring up, well, I don't really think that is a thing. And then you say, well, I concede that point, but it seems to be this way. That's why I'm trying to...
I said like 20 minutes ago, it's possible that it's a perceptual error on my part, right? That the thing that I'm perceiving to be a correlation isn't a correlation at all. Right? I granted that.
May well be a correlation. It's just... You've then said it appears to be a different way than what you agreed with me on.
I don't
before.
Okay, I don't recall making that claim. Right? I recall saying that I'm willing to accept your account of things. Right? I don't recall then trying to rectify my own position and restate it.
I do, because I was there.
I don't.
Well, okay, you also said that you tried to change the topic 3 times and that didn't happen. So clearly we have a dishonest narrator.
No, I thought the way I was going, I thought when I had brought up the point about how sometimes actors, seem to acquire seem to acquire characteristics of the characters they play, right, was trying to change the topic into something a little bit more broad. Evidently, that's not the case.
Well, that's the same topic. I mean, that's not a different topic. That's talking within the topic we're already speaking on. And I believe you were still talking about role-playing at that point. I don't think you mentioned actors. I mean, I might be wrong on that, and that's entirely my issue if I didn't pick up on that.
I'm pretty sure I used the word actor, but I could be wrong.
I don't know. Let's talk about... Oh, look, Dragnot's here.
Yeah, and you noticed are you noticing the comments?
Yeah.
Especially from Sam.
Let's see. What's in the comments? The most autistic argument I've ever witnessed. Let's not be ableist like that, please. That's kind of fucking weird. Autistic people are much smarter and more emotionally aware
I'm
than
autistic.
I am.
I'm autistic. I'm willing to say it's an autistic
Well,
conversation.
I mean, I'm just saying, I think most autistic people are more intelligent and more emotionally aware than I am. So let's not impugn autistic people.
Probably more intelligent than me as well. So.
Yeah, it's just kind of funny. It's like, is this argument? Is this what happens when you don't have regular intercourse? Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, if there's points you think I haven't conceded, like within this conversation, let's handle that now. But
I don't know. I really don't actually care all that much.
I'm going to invite Leo. Is that all right?
Sure, invite Drag as well.
Like a vault.
Yeah, I don't feel like inviting him.
I'll invite him.
Did you ask?
Do you mind if I invite Drag?
Yes.
Okay. Can I invite him?
Stop being a dick.
Can I invite him?
Stop attacking my family.
Did you turn into Wild Heart now?
I'm just making sure I have the host's permission.
Perks up.
Hey, you know what else perks up? Dogs.
I vote invite Drag.
just leave it at that.
Well, if Sam thinks it's a good idea, I guess that'll work.
I was just pretending to be a dog fucker.
Add to the education level room. There we go.
Well, this should be interesting. I invited Leo as well. So let's see how it goes having Drag on here.
Well,
this will be interesting indeed.
Drag, gonna find something to eat. I'm gonna.
You'll see.
Because Jesus cocksucking Christ, this is gonna be.
Oh, this is gonna be juicy.
I just came here to make it more autistic-er.
Well, I'm afraid I've already saturated. I'm afraid I've saturated the level of autism in this room already, so that's going to be a pretty hard task to beat.
Well, I've brought the stupidity up to 11, so.
No, I mean I started it. You just
11 out of 100.
You just
so
amplified it. That's trust me. I'm the root cause of this, of the ensuing chaos here. So don't worry about it.
What the fuck was the discussion even about? Like the Dungeons and Dragons makes people do drugs or something?
No,
I don't know.
I swear to God, Kat, this is.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
My point was, and now we're resurrecting it again, is that there seems to be a negative correlation between certain kinds of. I swear to God.
Hey, I was muted.
It seems.
I'm just
to
doing
me,
what I came here to do.
To me,
make it more autistic.
This started because when me and Midnight talked a few weeks ago, and why this conversation got brought up again, I don't know. But when I expressed that I thought that certain kinds of roleplay seem to have a negative influence, seem to have some kind of negative correlation in regards to a person's mental health.
Are you talking like sexual roleplay? Are you talking like
roleplay in general?
Like I don't know what that means, because roleplay on RuneScape is going to be different than roleplay in the bedroom. It's going to be different than roleplay at like a medieval,
Leo, your mic. You can lower your mic.
I should probably do that. Like I said, man, I'm here to make it more autistic-er, so I'm just doing everything I can to live up to, what I promised. Yeah, I don't know what roleplay in general means, because what that's going to mean to me, at least like in a sexual sense.
Well, what do you think it means? What do you think it means, and if it's not the type of thing I'm referring to, I'll correct it.
Well, what context are we speaking in?
I'm referring to roleplay in the most general type of way possible, being the act where two or more people engage in adopting a role which is not their own.
Roleplay in general, I would just take as really just acting. I mean, like, actors are role players essentially. Like, how general are we going? I mean,
right? Yeah. They're synonyms, so that's fine.
But we didn't we didn't we you know we didn't bring out the fact that Brad Pitt actually spent like, Kat, how long did he spend in the in you know in
It
the,
was
in the
weeks. It was near 2 months. So
What?
Brad Pitt, actually, it was during Terry Gilliam's
Why are we talking about
12
Brad Pitt now?
Monkeys. Brad Pitt put himself into psych ward under a false name, and
Okay.
because he wanted to see if he was convincingly crazy enough.
Was this for like a role or something?
Yes.
Yeah, in Terry
Okay.
Gilliam's 12 Monkeys.
Never heard of that, but continue.
I've never
Well,
heard of it
Terry
either, so this is
Gilliam
news
was
to me.
the fucking animator for Monty Python. He's also directed a bunch of films. But yeah, Brad Pitt put himself in there, and he wound up getting stuck there for in excess of weeks until the studio came in and had to bail him out because they were just like, "You're not actually Brad Pitt."
I could just imagine him walking in. I'm sorry about this guy. This is Brad fucking Pitt. He's got a role, and he's I don't even know what's going on. But we got to get him out of here. So if I could just get the sign out sheet.
Yeah, that's legitimately what happened.
And then he's just there. No, you can't take me out of here. No,
Well-
the monkeys will get me. No.
At this point, Brad Pitt was just like, "Oh God," because like Brad Pitt was there for a couple of weeks of his own volition, trying to make sure he was convincingly crazy, and then once he was like, "All right, guys, I'm Brad Pitt. I was just fucking memeing. It's time
They're
for
like,
me to
"No,
go."
all right, Joe, sit down here. Do we need to give you a shot? Do you need another shot?
Yeah,
Like they just
And-
thought he was some crazy person who thought that they were Brad Pitt. They didn't think he was.
or even darker, they knew he was Brad Pitt and was continuing going to pay.
Yeah, it's like, we'll just milk him for every cent that millionaire has, huh?
Yeah, right? And it's like Brad Pitt didn't lose himself during that, even though he was acting, pretending to be crazy for weeks. That's why I think it requires some sort of underlying mental issue. I guess that was my point.
Do you
Wait,
think
that Brad Pitt
do you
has an
think that-
underlying mental issue?
No.
Oh.
Like Brad Pitt would have lost himself in that role playing if he had an underlying mental issue, but he didn't because he didn't.
he didn't because he didn't? Well, that's important.
Well, he didn't lose himself because he didn't have an underlying mental issue.
Yeah, I
makes
think
sense.
that
I
somebody
mean-
who was technically was whatever you want to consider neurotypical in a like a psych ward would probably just be really bored and creeped out most of the time.
Well, I mean, okay, even if you have an underlying mental issue, that doesn't necessarily mean that you lose yourself in D&D. In fact, playing
No.
D&D or role playing itself may actually help alleviate that.
Well,
You know what I mean?
correct. I was talking about specific underlying mental issues, that would already, like certain flavors of schizophrenia or other dissociative issues could, it could compound with that. Yes, that is a potential thing that could happen, but I don't think
I
that
don't know.
happens generally unless
I've
you already
seen
have.
videos. I've seen videos from Maroon Fest, and I've never seen like an actual person in real life running down the street wearing robes and a fake staff trying to fucking catch a freeze on somebody so they could smite them out. Like that just doesn't happen in real life. Probably because people who play RuneScape are based in RuneScape build and not completely fucking crazy, but that's a different discussion.
I think I saw
probably a very
J-Dubs
different
do that
discussion.
to my ex-boyfriend, but
Do what exactly?
Oh, okay.
well, he was chasing him with a stick.
Was he trying to cast? Was he trying to cast spells?
Was this an
he was
impromptu
screaming in
game of
Hebrew,
strap-on
so-
or what?
No. Hold on.
That would be better.
Watching, I have an argument. Watching anime is bad for you because because then you'll try to do
I don't want to
Naruto.
hear it from the guy. I don't want to hear it from the
You
guy
didn't
that
let me
watches
finish.
My Little Pony. I don't
didn't
give a
let me-
fuck what you're about to say.
I've heard My
You
Little
didn't let
Pony
me
is actually
finish.
really fucking funny though.
You didn't let me finish, Immutable.
I don't care. Go ahead.
Stop attacking Midnight's family. Why'd you bring his daughter into this, Immutable?
I was going to make a joke. About about anime being a bad influence because people have tried doing the Naruto run.
Well,
or at least joking about
No.
doing the Naruto run.
I'll do you one better. Anime is horrible because Christian.
Because what?
Chris
Oh,
Chan.
that's a rabbit hole.
Who?
Oh.
Chris who?
Christine Weston Chandler.
I will
Don't
refer to
know
him by his
who
male
the
pronoun.
fuck that is.
You want to handle this one, Kat?
What?
You want to handle this one?
I've watched
wanna
one
handle what
anime
one?
series in my entire life.
Chris
and
Chan,
that was
all
Death
right.
Note.
Here, let me. I'll
How
try and
is
give
this spelled?
CHRISCHAN.
Yeah, Chris Chan.
Oh, that's weird.
Oh, this is
Okay.
a rabbit hole that's about to get busted wide the fuck open.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't
he
want to
ma-
go down the rabbit hole if it's going to take an hour and a half to explain who he is.
Oh,
I mean, it's not that big of a
It's
deal.
gonna
then I
take
don't
more
care.
than that.
Then I don't-
There
then I
is
don't really
roughly
care. Okay.
120 hours worth of video of people covering the wiki, of one person covering the wiki about this guy.
That's just the wiki.
Keep in mind, this is unironically, well, actually, it is. This is the most documented person in human history.
Yes.
I would question that one.
No. Oh.
Okay, so how
No.
many documents
Yes.
exist about people and you don't even know that number? You don't even know that the
Okay,
person is
okay,
real,
okay,
let alone
okay,
the documents.
okay,
I mean, if
look,
we really
look,
want to get
look,
into that,
look,
I
look, it
doubt
doesn't-
he's
it-
the most
it doesn't-
documented person.
It doesn't
in human
fucking matter.
history.
Okay, it doesn't fucking matter. The point is that people have been documenting this guy for 10 years.
What
Probably
was his
Oh,
name?
over
longer.
10 years.
Oh, no,
Chris
over
Chan
20.
What?
Over 20. Yeah.
Chris Chan what?
I'll put it in the private chat.
I'll just give you the wiki for it, and you can.
Or just
have fun
Yeah,
with
the
that.
quickie.
type out
Yeah.
the name. Let me copy paste a name. Yeah, so that's y'all are saying Chris Chan. That's Christian Weston Chandler.
No. Chris Chan is the name they go by.
That's
That's their legal name. Well, okay, actually, their
It
legal
was their
name
legal
is,
name. Is Christine because it was changed.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
if you put that into the search engine, it gives it back the same person because
Cat being transphobic toward Christian or Christine Chan.
Christian is the one person I have no qualms about misgendering deliberately.
I just want to say, Chris Chan has said that they still go by Chris Chan, so Chris Chan is not being transphobic.
I will just refer to him by his male pronouns.
So, you guys just want
I
to go
just
backstage
refer
since
to
this is
Chris
done?
as Chris, because
The argument's
can't get in
basically
trouble
done,
for that.
so we could just go backstage. Or do you
No,
guys wanna
but I
keep going
mean-
live?
I
Look.
don't mind. I mean, look, if you guys want to chat about something, I'm cool with it. It's just the first half hour of this conversation's been kind of interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know what the fuck Encyclopedia Dramatica is, but I saw 4chan and I have lost interest altogether. I just don't even care.
So
who
here's
this
it.
person
So here's
is.
the interesting thing. Do you know why 4chan has its name?
No, I don't really care.
It's because
It's
2chan.
because of this
It's
individual.
not Chris.
I
that's
really
factually
don't care
incorrect.
why.
It's because of 2chan. 2chan was a Japanese website, and 4chan spawned
Yeah, because
from
now they
that.
have 8chan, which is like nothing but white supremacy.
Well, yeah,
and
there's
not that
also
4chan isn't
7chan,
already that, but
There's 67chan. There's
is there
420chan.
69chan?
I don't know
Probably.
if
By
there's
the way, guys,
69chan.
I just wanted to let everybody know that because of inflation, 69ing is now called 77ing.
I didn't know
Damn.
the inflationary cosmology got a new nickname.
What does? Oh my god!
Ooh, ooh.
Oh my god!
You brought that up, not me.
I'm talking about numbers getting bigger, and you go to inflation in cosmology instead of economics.
Well,
hang on.
Nobody got the
Hang-
joke
well, hang
because of
on.
inflation. 69ing is now 77ing.
no,
That's
we got-
fucking hilarious.
We got it. We got it. But thank you for joining. For watching this autism stream. Expect more autism from me at a later date. Have a nice night.